You know that moment when someone looks you in the eye and says, "You're overreacting." And for a split second, you freeze, you feel your chest tighten. You start to question yourself. Wait, am I? Did I go too far? That single sentence, that one tiny phrase, has the power to make you doubt your entire perception of reality. And that's not by accident. When someone says you're overreacting, what they're really doing is hijacking your emotional truth. They're not looking to understand you. They're looking to control you. And if you don't see it for what it is, you fall into the trap, the one designed to silence you, to shrink you, to make you play small so they can keep playing powerful. Let's call that moment what it is, a psychological pivot point. Because in that instant, one of two things will happen. Either you surrender your piece to their version of the story, or you reclaim it. I want to teach you how to reclaim it. Not in an hour, not after you've calmed down, in 5 seconds, because that's all it takes. 5 seconds to interrupt the pattern, 5 seconds to take back control of your mind, your body, your response. And before you roll your eyes and think, come on, Mel, 5 seconds can't change something that deep. Let me tell you, it can. It's neuroscience. It's momentum. It's your rescue rope in real time. You see, the people who weaponize phrases like "you're too sensitive," "you always make it about you," or "calm down," they're not searching for truth. They're searching for dominance. They know that if they can make you defend your feelings, they've already won the argument. Because now you're explaining instead of observing. You're reacting instead of choosing. And that's where the trap lives, in that gap between reaction and choice. But there's also where your freedom begins. You've been conditioned to think your peace depends on being understood. It doesn't. Your peace depends on being grounded in your own truth, your own awareness, your own body. And that grounding starts the moment you stop letting other people dictate the emotional weather in the room. So here's what I want you to remember as we start this conversation today. The next time someone says you're overreacting, don't argue. Don't explain. Don't prove. Pause. Count backward 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come home to yourself. That 5-second window is where your power lives. Because in that silence, you're not being manipulated, you're being mindful. This episode isn't about blaming. It's about waking up. It's about seeing the pattern for what it is and reclaiming what it's been, stealing your peace, your confidence, your clarity. You are not too emotional. You are not too much. You're just tired of being told your sensitivity is a flaw when it's actually your superpower. And by the end of this conversation, you'll know exactly how to protect it with calm, with confidence, and yes, with 5 seconds. Let's start by understanding why these traps work so well and how your brain and body get pulled into them before you even realize it. Let's pull the curtain back on what's really happening in those moments. Because once you understand the anatomy of a narcissistic trap, you stop falling for it. Every trap starts the same way. Confusion disguised as concern. They say things like, "I'm just trying to help you calm down," or "you always take things so personally." It sounds gentle, even logical, but underneath, it's not care, it's control. What they're doing, consciously or not, is redirecting your focus away from what they did and toward how you're reacting. That's manipulation at its most subtle. They don't have to deny the facts, they just have to make you question your perception of them. And suddenly, the conversation shifts. It's no longer about what they said or did, it's about your tone, your attitude, your sensitivity. The spotlight moves off their behavior and lands on your emotions. And that's how they win, by making you police yourself. Now, I want you to understand this part, not as judgment, but as psychology. When someone uses this tactic, your brain goes into a kind of short circuit. It's called amygdala. Hijack your nervous system senses threat, even if the threat isn't physical. Your body floods with cortisol, your rational mind shuts down, and suddenly you're defending yourself, not deciding for yourself. You're in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't seek clarity, it seeks safety. So you start explaining, apologizing, appeasing anything to get back to calm. That's how the trap tightens. The more you explain, the more power they gain. Because in that moment, your words are no longer communication, they're surrender. Let me say something that might sting a little. If someone keeps telling you that your feelings are too much, it's because your awareness is threatening their control. They're not overwhelmed by your emotion, they're exposed by your clarity. And the quickest way for them to regain power is to make you question it. Here's the truth that narcissists, manipulators, and emotional bullies all underestimate timing. They think because karma doesn't strike right away, they've escaped it. They mistake your silence for approval, your pause for weakness. But silence, when it's grounded, is not submission. It's observation. It's where your wisdom gathers strength. When someone builds their power on your confusion, the most radical thing you can do is get clear. Because clarity is their kryptonite. When you can see the manipulation, it stops working. When you can name it, you're no longer inside it. And that's where your 5 seconds come in. That's the bridge between confusion and clarity. So from now on, when you hear phrases like, you're imagining things, you always make me the bad guy, you can't take a joke, pause, just pause. That's your body's signal saying, this isn't communication, this is control. You don't owe anyone instant reaction. You owe yourself regulation. Because once you're calm, you can see everything. And when you can see everything, you can choose differently. That's what the 5-second rule is. For not just to stop procrastination or build habits, it's your psychological off switch. It's how you stop being pulled into the game and start observing the game. So as we move forward, I want you to picture this clearly. Every time someone tries to twist your emotions against you, they're throwing a hook, but you don't have to bite. You can recognize the pattern, take a breath, count back, and choose peace instead of panic. That's the anatomy of the trap, and now you see it. Next, we're going to go even deeper into what happens inside you, the moment that hook lands, the physiological shift, the emotional hijack, and the exact moment your power gets stolen. And then I'll show you exactly how to take it back in real time. Let's talk about what happens in you when someone pulls that trigger phrase. Because if you can recognize this moment, you can stop it before it owns you. It starts small, almost invisible. They say you're too sensitive, and instantly there's a drop in your chest. You stop breathing for half a second, your stomach tightens, your throat closes just a little. You don't even realize it, but your whole body has gone into alert mode. You're not thinking anymore, you're defending. That right there is the hijack. In that instant, your brain does something automatic. Your amygdala, the part that protects you from danger, thinks you're under threat. It can't tell the difference between an emotional attack and a physical one. So it floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate rises. Your muscles tense. Your attention narrows. You're not having a conversation anymore. You're having a survival response. You might start explaining yourself. You might raise your voice or go quiet. You might feel dizzy, confused, ashamed, or suddenly desperate to make them understand you. All of those are just signals that your nervous system has been hijacked. It's not weakness, it's wiring. And this is exactly where manipulators thrive. Because the more emotional you become, the easier it is for them to rewrite the narrative. You get louder, they get calmer. You cry, they smirk. You try to prove your sincerity. They say, see, this is what I mean. You start to realize no matter what you say, you're losing ground. Because the goal was never resolution. It was control. But here's the miracle hiding in that chaos. Once you see this moment, you can interrupt it. You can name it. You can reclaim it. I want you to imagine something right now. You're in that heated moment. You feel your pulse racing, your thoughts spinning. You can practically feel the trap closing around you. This is where the old you reacts. This is where the conditioned you explains, apologizes, or tries to fix it. But not this time. This time, you pause, you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and suddenly you're not in their world anymore. You're back in yours. That tiny act, that breath, that backward count, it reactivates the prefrontal cortex in your brain. That's the part responsible for choice, logic, and awareness. It's like flipping the breaker on your emotional storm. Your thoughts slow down. Your awareness widens. And for the first time in that conversation, you see clearly. That clarity is everything because you can't out-argue someone whose goal is confusion, but you can refuse to be confused. So when that hijack moment hits, when you feel your throat tighten or your mind go blank, that's your cue. You don't need to fight for control of the conversation. You need to reclaim control of your body. Say to yourself quietly, I'm safe. I see what's happening. I choose peace. That sentence alone changes your state. It takes you from victim of the moment to observer of it. And observation is power. Remember this, a narcissist's power lives in your reaction. Your peace lives in your pause. That's why the 5-second rule works, because it brings you back to the only place you ever have control, right here, right now. And once you've learned to spot the hijack, the next step is even more powerful, learning how to reset it instantly. That's what we're diving into next. Because the real transformation doesn't happen when you see the trap. It happens when you know exactly how to break it. This is the part where everything changes. Because knowing you've been hijacked is awareness, but interrupting it, that's freedom. You've probably heard me talk about the 5-second rule before. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. It's how you get yourself out of bed when your mind says stay. It's how you stop procrastinating, break habits, build courage. But here's the truth most people miss. The 5-second rule isn't just a productivity tool. It's an emotional control tool. When you use it during conflict, during manipulation, gaslighting, or a power struggle, it becomes your mental shield. It's not about controlling them. It's about controlling you. So let's walk through what that looks like. Imagine the moment they say something that hits you like a punch. You're overreacting. You feel that familiar wave of shame or rage rising. You want to defend yourself, to prove your point, to restore fairness. But instead, you do this. You pause, you inhale, and you count backward out loud if you can. 5, acknowledge the trigger. You felt it. You caught it. That's progress. 4, drop into your body. Feel your feet on the floor. You're back in the present moment. 3, exhale. Lower your shoulders. This physically lowers cortisol levels in your bloodstream. 2, anchor a phrase in your mind. I choose peace. Or this is their storm, not mine. 1, hold your boundary. That might mean silence. It might mean we'll talk later. It might mean walking away. That's your reset. That's the moment you flip the switch from powerless to powerful without saying a single cruel word. What's happening neurologically is simple but profound. Counting backward interrupts the habit loop in your mind. It moves you out of the amygdala, the emotional center, and reactivates your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decisions, manages impulses, and holds your integrity steady. In 5 seconds, you move from reacting to responding. And here's why that matters. Narcissists, emotional manipulators, even just toxic communicators, they thrive on reaction. They need your energy to sustain their illusion of control. When you pause, when you ground, when you choose silence instead of chaos, you starve the illusion. They can't feed off your calm. They don't know what to do with it. This is what I call the power interrupt. It's quiet. It's subtle. It's devastating not to them, but to the pattern. Because when you interrupt the pattern, you break the spell. You don't have to win. You don't have to prove who's right. You don't even have to explain yourself. You just have to stay grounded long enough to remember who you are. The 5-second reset is your return to self. It's you saying, I am not entering your storm today. It's you realizing that your peace is not a prize to be won. It's a practice to be kept. And here's the beautiful side effect. The more you use it, the faster your nervous system learns the new pattern. You stop spiraling as quickly. You recover faster. You start to feel something you maybe haven't felt in years, safety inside your own body. So the next time someone throws that phrase at you, you're too emotional, you're dramatic, you're impossible to talk to, smile inwardly, count backward, breathe, and know that in that silence, you just took back control. Not reaction, reset, not defense, direction, not chaos, choice, because that's what the 5-second reset really is, a doorway back to yourself. And now that you've learned how to interrupt the storm, let's talk about what happens next, the language of peace. How to speak in a way that protects your boundaries, holds your power, and leaves no space for manipulation to slip back in. Now that you know how to reset your nervous system, let's talk about what to say next. Because silence is powerful, but sometimes silence needs a sentence to stand beside it. The way you speak after you reset determines whether the pattern ends or restarts. And I want you to have words that protect your peace, not phrases that reopen the battlefield. You see, most of us were never taught language for boundaries. We were taught language for defense. We learned to explain, to justify, to overshare, to prove we're good people. But boundaries don't explain. Boundaries declare. They sound calm, not clever, firm, not forceful, simple, not emotional. So here's what powerful language sounds like. That's not my truth, but I hear you. I'm not discussing tone. I'm discussing behavior. I can continue this conversation when we're both calm. I'm not available for this right now. Short, clear, non-negotiable. These aren't walls, they're doors that you decide when to open and close. Each one says, I choose peace over performance. And I want you to notice something. None of those sentences attack. They don't accuse. They don't apologize. They anchor. When you use these lines, you shift from reaction to regulation, from defending your worth to defining it. Because here's what's really going on in those heated moments. The narcissist or manipulative person doesn't want truth, they want engagement. They don't care if it's love or anger, just so long as it's energy. Every time you react, you feed that dynamic. Every time you stay grounded, you interrupt it. Your new rule is this: if it costs your peace, it's too expensive to say. So when you feel that urge to respond, that instinct to fix, to clarify, to make them understand, remember, your peace isn't in the explanation. It's in the boundary. Try this. The next time you're being pulled into that circular argument, use this sentence. I understand that's how you see it. Then stop. Let the silence sit. You don't have to fill it. You don't have to prove anything. Because that's the moment they realize the performance isn't working anymore. And yes, they might escalate. They might push harder. They might accuse you of being cold, distant, or uncaring. But that's not truth. That's withdrawal. They're not reacting to your cruelty. They're reacting to your calm. The more peaceful you become, the louder chaos gets until it realizes it has no audience left. And here's the irony. Your strength doesn't come from knowing the right comeback. It comes from knowing you don't need one. When you master the language of power, you stop trying to win the conversation, you start winning your freedom, you stop performing for understanding and start practicing self-respect. You start to see that peace doesn't mean silence out of fear. It means silence with intention. So now you have two tools: your 5-second reset to break the hijack, your language of power to protect your boundaries. But there's one more layer we need to talk about. Because even when you use these tools, your body still carries the old reactions, the tension, the anxiety, the emotional residue of being trained to appease. To stay free, you have to teach your nervous system what safety feels like again. And that's where we go next. Now let's talk about the part that nobody explains enough, the part that happens after the argument, after the silence, after the reset. Because even when you've held your boundary, even when you've done everything right, your body still remembers the chaos. You might feel shaky, drained, confused, or even guilty for standing your ground. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system trying to recalibrate. It's detoxing from years of emotional conditioning. See, your body doesn't speak English. It speaks sensation, tension, heat, breath, pulse. When you've lived in relationships or environments where you were gaslit, invalidated, or constantly on edge, your body learns that stress is normal. It learns to expect walking on eggshells. It learns to confuse adrenaline for connection. And the moment you break that pattern, when you finally choose calm over chaos, your body doesn't know what to do with the stillness. It mistakes peace for danger because peace feels unfamiliar. That's why we need an emotional detox, not a mental one, a physical one. Here's how you begin. After any emotionally charged interaction, don't analyze it. Don't replay the words. Don't text your friends for validation. Your job isn't to make sense of what happened, it's to bring your body back to safety. Step 1, breathe. Not shallow chest breathing. Deep, slow, deliberate breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Do it 3 times. Right there, you're telling your nervous system, we're not in danger anymore. Step 2, ground. Feel your feet on the floor. Press your toes down. Name what you can see, 5 things. Name what you can hear, 3 things. You're reminding your body, we're here now. Step 3, reaffirm. Put your hand on your chest and say quietly, I'm safe, I'm steady, I'm seen. You don't have to believe it fully. Your body just needs to hear it. Step 4, release the story. Every time your mind starts to replay what was said, interrupt it with one simple line. This is not my job to carry, because it isn't. Your job isn't to fix someone else's emotional damage. Your job is to keep your nervous system clean. Now, I want to give you a journal prompt not to overthink, but to realign. Write this down. What did I feel and what was I told I felt? That's where you'll start seeing the difference between your truth and their distortion. That's how you start detoxing from manipulation, not by blaming, but by separating what's yours from what's theirs. And yes, it takes time, because every time you choose not to engage in the chaos, you're breaking a neurological pattern that's been wired in for years. You're teaching your brain that peace is safe. You're teaching your body that silence doesn't mean danger. You're teaching your heart that calm isn't the same as being controlled. That's healing. That's rewiring. That's the detox in action. So the next time you feel that emotional hangover after setting a boundary, don't go looking for validation. Go looking for regulation. Sit, breathe, anchor. Remind yourself that discomfort doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. It means your system is learning what right finally feels like. And here's the truth. When you start to regulate, the manipulator loses their grip completely, because their entire game depends on keeping you dysregulated. Your calm is the end of their control. Now that you've learned how to reset, how to speak powerfully, and how to regulate your body afterward, the next step is understanding how all these moments add up, how every pause, every breath, every silence begins to break the pattern permanently. That's what we'll unpack next, the pattern of liberation. Because healing isn't one boundary. It's a chain reaction of reclaiming yourself, one choice at a time. Every time you pause instead of react, you're doing something extraordinary. You're not just calming down, you're breaking a cycle that's probably been running for years. Because here's the truth. The cycle isn't about the narcissist. It's about your nervous system, your conditioning, your learned response to chaos. And when you begin to interrupt that pattern with your pause, with your boundary, with your breath, you're not only changing the moment, you're changing your entire internal blueprint for safety. Let me paint this for you. For years, maybe decades, your body believed that survival meant pleasing people. It believed that safety came from being understood, from fixing, from smoothing things over. You learn to earn peace by managing everyone else's emotions. And when you stop doing that, when you finally detach, your body panics a little, because it doesn't yet know that peace can exist without performance. But this is where liberation begins. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, consistent, and unbelievably powerful. Liberation is when you stop needing someone to understand your pain in order to validate it. Liberation is when you can watch manipulation happen and think, that's not mine to carry. Liberation is when silence stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like protection. The narcissist, the controller, loses power in direct proportion to how much self-awareness you gain. Their energy depends on your engagement. Their control depends on your confusion. So every time you choose clarity over chaos, calm over reaction, peace over proof, you're dismantling the entire structure they built. And here's the part they never see coming. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't make you distant. It makes you discerning. It's not avoidance. It's awareness. Because the truth is, you can love someone and still refuse to be their emotional supply. You can care about someone and still choose to stop participating in the dysfunction. That's not cruelty, that's maturity. That's healing. And when you start doing this, when you consistently pause, breathe, and reset, something profound happens. Your peace stops being situational. It becomes internal. You no longer need them to change for you to feel calm. You no longer wait for an apology to feel closure. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. It's like stepping out of a storm you didn't realize you were standing in for years, and suddenly you can see the sky again. Now, I want to be honest, this part of the journey can feel lonely because when you stop engaging, the people who benefited from your confusion will pull away. They'll call you detached, selfish, cold, but they're not describing you, they're describing their loss of control. Let them, because every accusation they throw is just proof that you've stopped playing the role they cast you in. You've stepped out of their script and started writing your own. The pattern of liberation looks like this. First, awareness, you see the trap. Then, regulation, you reset your reaction. Then, communication, you speak from calm, not chaos. Then, detachment, you stop chasing closure. And finally, peace, the quiet, confidence that doesn't need to explain itself anymore. That's the cycle of healing. And when you live inside that rhythm long enough, something else starts to shift your entire mindset about justice, fairness, and karma. Because at some point, you stop needing to see the narcissist fall. You start realizing that the real victory is your rise. And that brings us to the next part of this conversation, the mindset shift that changes everything, moving from justice to growth. Because liberation isn't complete until you learn to stop waiting for their downfall and start celebrating your own evolution. Let's talk about the part that most people never get to, the shift from justice to growth. Because yes, it's natural to want fairness. It's human to want the universe to even the scales. When someone lies, manipulates, or takes advantage of your kindness, every cell in your body wants to see them face the same pain they caused you. You want to see the karma, the consequence, the cosmic checkmate. But here's what I've learned, and it's taken me years to truly understand this. That kind of justice doesn't heal you. It hooks you. It keeps you tethered to their energy long after they've left your life. It's another version of the same trap. You just swap the argument for anticipation. Because as long as you're watching for their downfall, you're still orbiting around their story. And you deserve to be the center of your own again. Here's the truth. Life always balances the scales. Always. It might not happen on your timeline. It might not happen in front of your eyes. But balance comes, not as punishment, but as correction. Because the universe doesn't chase. It aligns. And when you understand that, you stop needing proof that they've gotten theirs. You stop replaying the story in your head, waiting for the ending where they finally realize what they lost. Because the real justice isn't them falling apart. It's you no longer falling for it. Growth is the higher justice. It's the quiet, dignified kind that no one can post about, but everyone can feel. It's you sleeping through the night again. It's you laughing without looking over your shoulder. It's you realizing that peace tastes better than revenge ever could. When you reach this place, your energy changes. You start attracting people who speak the same language, truth, calm, empathy. You start seeing your boundaries not as walls, but as gates that only open for honesty. And you stop being reactive to negativity because you've become fluent in neutrality. Let me give you a truth that changed my life. You don't rise by watching them fall. You rise by choosing not to follow them down. Because every time you stop engaging in the game, every time you choose peace over pettiness, the universe notices, not in some mystical faraway way, but in very real ways. Your opportunities shift, your health improves, your creativity comes back, you start living from purpose, not pain. And here's the beautiful part. You don't even have to wish them ill. You can genuinely wish them healing because you've finally healed enough to know that their pain was never your responsibility to fix. That's growth. That's what liberation looks like in action. And when you live in that space long enough, you begin to realize something powerful. The story isn't about them anymore. It's about what life built in you because of them. Resilience, discernment, strength, empathy, peace. That's how you know you've moved from justice to growth. When the question is no longer, will they get what they deserve? But instead, what will I do with my freedom now? And that's where we're heading next. Because in this final part, we're going to bring everything home, the pause, the boundary, the detox, the mindset, and turn it into one powerful promise, the 5-second choice that sets you free for good. Here's where it all comes together. Everything we've talked about, the trap, the reset, the boundary, the detox, the growth, it all leads to this. The moment you decide to never give your peace away again, and that moment only takes 5 seconds. Because the next time someone says, you're overreacting, or you're too sensitive, or you're imagining things, I want you to remember this. You're not being dramatic. You're being dismissed. And that's your cue. You pause. You breathe. You count backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And in that short window, something powerful happens. You come home to yourself. You're not arguing anymore. You're not proving anymore. You're choosing peace over panic, clarity over chaos, growth over guilt. That's your 5-second promise. The commitment to yourself that you will never again let someone else's emotional storm pull you out of your calm. Because here's the truth. You don't need to control anyone else. You just need to command your own energy. When you do that, life begins to rearrange around you. Your relationships change. Your boundaries strengthen. Your inner world quiets. You start to attract people who value your calm instead of exploiting it. And that's not luck, that's alignment. Karma doesn't rush. It calibrates. It waits for the moment when you're no longer chasing fairness because you've found balance. That's when life steps in and says, you've learned the lesson. Now here's your peace. You don't have to see anyone else fall. You just have to rise. You don't need an apology to move forward. You just need your awareness. And the beautiful part, you already have it. So let's seal this with one promise to yourself. The next time life tests you, the next time someone tries to rewrite your reality, you'll remember what you've built here. You'll take that breath. You'll count down. You'll feel your feet, and you'll whisper, I choose peace. Because you are not reactive anymore. You are responsive. You are not fragile. You are focused. You are not waiting for justice. You are living in balance. 5 seconds. That's all it takes to reclaim your mind, your peace, and your power. Remember this always. Karma doesn't chase, it aligns. Peace doesn't beg, it stands. And truth doesn't shout, it simply outlasts everything false. You've done the work. You've broken the pattern. You've risen above it. Now it's time to live free, quietly, confidently, completely, because your silence, that's not weakness, that's mastery.